Tonight, the spotlight is on 3 investigative agencies deeply involved in the multi-million National Youth Service corruption scandals. The EACC has reopened investigations into the scam that ironically must be carried out by its own officials who cleared former Cabinet Secretary Ann Waiguru. Now, the EACC must also rely on the banking fraud police unit itself, heavily implicated in the scandal, and prosecutions can only take place if the Director of Public Prosecutions receives a file from the same police. Dennis Onsarigo reports.
Since November 2014, when Devolution Cabinet Secretary Ann Waiguru resigned from government on what she claimed was the doctor's advice to take up on lighter duties.
Just for keeping you waiting.
The prescription from our doctor has not worked. Allegations of corruption continue to dog her. Josephine Kabura, a hairdresser turned businesswoman, in a damaging affidavit, claims the former cabinet secretary was at the center of the corruption scandal. At the center, where some 791 million shillings was paid out in dubious transactions. The architect, the man in charge of banking fraud unit, Joseph Mogwanja, who reports to the Director of Criminal Investigations, Ndegwa Mohoro. First, the former cabinet secretary had claimed there was no money lost, only to admit later that indeed some money may have been lost.
From the said transactions, no money had been lost, as we nipped the activities in the bud and were able to stop it before we lost any money.
Ann Waiguru became a whistleblower and a witness in the NYS scandal.
On matters that have to do with procurement or finance, have nothing to do with a cabinet secretary.
But with the damaging affidavit alleging that Ann Waiguru was among those who shared the 791 million shillings loot, questions are now being raised on the independence of the departments involved in the investigations and prosecutions. There were initial signs that things were not adding up. First, when the Ministry of Devolution contracted the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to conduct a corruption risk assessment report in the ministry. At the time, Ann Waiguru had been asked to record a statement with the Anti-Corruption Agency.
It was therefore an imperative that we assess the extent of exposure to risks of corruption and mismanagement and put in place measures that would mitigate against them.
Service must establish systems, policies, procedures, and structures that enhance corruption prevention and ethical conduct.
The agency painted a picture of a ministry on top of the anti-corruption agenda. The report was handed over to the CS weeks after she had recorded a statement with the same EACC over the 791 million shillings corruption scandal. The EACC faces one of its most crucial tests, as it has now directed a fresh probe into the NYS saga, beating a hasty retreat that raises serious questions. Why did the EACC clear Ann Waiguru in the first place? Why did the commission allow the minister to suspend junior staff members from our ministry based on the findings of the police and not that of the Director of Public Prosecutions? Why was the letter to clear her sent to the Chief of Staff and the Head of the Public Service, Joseph Kinyua, and not the Director of Public Prosecutions? The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission will again have to rely on the banking fraud unit that falls under the Criminal Investigation Department for a fresh probe. Ironically, the EACC is relying on an affidavit that implicates the CID as the masterminds of the massive cover-up under instructions from the former cabinet secretary. The fresh investigation may run into more trouble. The banking fraud unit is said to have massively covered up the movement of money from the Ministry of Devolution to companies associated with top government officials. The top National Youth Service and Ministry of Devolution officials are currently facing corruption charges in court. The charges are based on an investigation done by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Banking Fraud Unit. For now, focus shifts to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption CEO Halake Wako, the Criminal Investigations Director Ndegwa Mohoro, and the Director of Public Prosecutions Keriako Tobiko. The gentlemen will have to navigate the murky waters that is the 791 million shillings NYS corruption scandal. a scandal that has sucked in an entire criminal justice system. Denson Sarigo, KTN News.